Have you heard of the 2 years of clinical experience myth that's holding you back from making more money and creating more impact in your virtual business? Today, I'm going to break that down for you. My name is Libby Rothschild, founder of Dietitian Boss. I help dietitians all over the world go from zero to creating six-figure virtual businesses by using social media marketing to attract cash-paying clients. Now, you might have heard of the myth called 2 years of clinical experience because it's an archaic belief set or belief system that many professors and groggy preceptors have had circulating around the field of dietetics for, gosh, centuries, right? And if we really look back as to how this myth was first created, it has to do with the way our education system is based. So firstly, registered dietitians are trained to be clinicians. 60% of us identify as clinical dietitians, according to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Compensation and Benefits Survey Guide. Only up to 10% of us, I've even seen statistics as low as 4 to 6% of us, identify as virtual practitioners or private practitioners, not even virtual. I don't even have the stats on virtual, which means a very small percentage of dietitians are running their own business in private practice. And the question is, well, why? And what does this have to do with clinical experience? So I'm going to break this down. Our education system and the curriculum in dietetics is largely based to create and produce a clinical dietitian. So the way that we're taught and instructed and the lessons that we're forced to complete all have to do with clinical work. We aren't given much education or inspiration about business, yet we have so much knowledge, and if we don't know how to disseminate that knowledge, then we become the bottleneck to helping consumers. So it creates quite the conundrum because consumers need help, right? And they want our knowledge, our diverse knowledge in different specialties from, we've got performance nutrition, child nutrition, gut nutrition, weight loss, food freedom, recovery, so many different specialties. But if we're not able to find a way to communicate what we do and how we serve people because we're lacking marketing and sales skills, we become the bottleneck. And you know what? That's just not right for consumers, let alone for us, because how can we create income and impact if we don't know how to get our message out there? It's very disappointing that our education system is so behind, and that's where my business comes in. My mission and vision is to help dietitians all around the world learn sales and marketing skills using social media to attract cash-paying clients so that we can create more income and impact on our terms. And I do this by helping you create really clear and specific content so that you can attract the client that you want and focus on specializing your message, because consumers, well, they're confused and they need help. But again, if they're searching every day for information on the internet and they can't find you, then they're not going to hire you. And if they don't know you exist because you haven't positioned yourself as an expert, well, then everybody loses. They lose because they don't get help, or they don't get help from you, and you lose because your amazing skills and knowledge and your education is wasted. Let's go back to the 2 years clinical. So again, our education system, at least when I was in school, and I know even now it's, maybe slowly, there's a few extracurricular classes here and there. Maybe internships might mention a few references. I know my podcast has been listed at ASU as far as a recommendation and resource for students, but that's still very cutting edge to involve any level of business skills and business acumen for the future of dietitians. What we are told, however, is get 2 years clinical experience. And that's because old groggy professors think that we need to go into clinical, into a miserable windowless office where we're paid $40,000, $50,000 a year to not even be able to order a supplement or recommend a supplement. There's so much irony to us being forced into a clinical job where we not only have so little say, but we're not respected for various reasons. We're not seen as an asset to the team in clinical. At least I wasn't seen as an asset. And so many of my clients tell me in clinical, they just felt underused, underrepresented, and dare I say, underpaid, all right? So I made $55,000 as a clinical dietitian. I served my sentence for 5 years. And I can't believe I was there so long. I mean, what was I doing, right? I finally was able to escape, and now I help you escape as well, because you don't need to get those 2 years. You don't need any clinical experience, to tell you the truth. The internship does enough, right? That does enough damage for you to have to be forced into any clinical rotations to become a dietitian. Now, I have a lot of bones to pick as far as a dietetics education, which I will continue to come in and talk more about that in the future, as far as changing the curriculum and adding more to the curriculum, and even just understanding what does dietitian mean, because such archaic belief systems have put us into a box, which I don't like that. as far as like what makes a dietitian, but yet we are so diverse and there's so many different fields and aspects that we go into, yet again, our training is so like narrow. Again, that's where the continuing education comes in and the professional development that we do as dietitians after school. But I want us to remember that just because you might be a new dietitian, or maybe you're a dietitian that wants to go into private practice because it's an amazing opportunity to have freedom and flexibility, that doesn't mean that you have to go into that 2-year clinical death sentence. So when you're in clinical, you're not paying your dues, you're wasting your time. Not only are you underpaid, but that's the opportunity cost of being in clinical. When you could learn the skills for sales and marketing to attract cash paying clients on social media, I mean, that's huge. So the average salary is anywhere from, I mean, the Labor Bureau and Statistics say $65,000. Again, I've seen it much lower, but let's just go with $65,000 for a clinical salary. So if you park yourself in a windowless office in clinical at $65,000 a year, and that's what you decide to do, that's your trajectory. The opportunity cost is how much money you could be making if you were to take time and energy into building your virtual private practice and learning sales and marketing skills that can attract clients that you want to see, that want to see you, that don't refuse education. And you can create a team, a virtual assistant. You can work with other dietitian bosses around the world. My clients, there's thousands of them, right, who have been able to apply my framework and attract cash paying clients in the field that they want. And they've been able to serve the clients that they want on their terms, versus clinical, where you're forced to see clients that mostly don't even want to see you, right? Because in clinical, a lot of those patients, they don't want nutrition education. And I remember being forced to deliver nutrition education to patients, and it made me feel miserable, useless, and I wasted away. And it was awful, and I'll never get those 5 years back. But what I can do is tell the future of dietitians that they don't have to do that, right? It's not mandatory to do clinical. You can go straight to private practice. Or if you're in your clinical office, there's hope, my friend, because I was there too, building my practice from my clinical office. So if you choose to do that, open up your phone, you learn how to use Instagram, listen to my podcast, grab my free resources, and I want you to build your ideal client and your message and get really clear with how you are standing out in the market so that you can attract cash paying clients, and that'll replace your clinical salary and then very quickly be able to double and triple the amount of money you made in clinical, not to mention the significant impact that you can make. Now, I know my ideas are cutting edge because we weren't taught this in dietetics, and so many of you don't think it's possible, which is why I showcase my clients who are six-figure and multi-six-figure earners all the time. They tell their stories every week on my podcast. I interview them multiple times a week. I spotlight them on my Instagram, and you'll know them because they're in my community. And because of that, we're all together sharing how much money we're making as women. We're empowering one another to increase that statistic, because we don't any longer have to be under 10% of dietitians in private practice. We can expand that number, and we can do it together, because it feels a little bit lonely to grow your virtual practice independently. But when you know there are other dietitians around the world doing the same thing and finding success by following my framework, well, that can be you too. And we're a really warm, welcoming community of dietitian bosses. So I encourage you to follow me on Instagram and apply for my services, because what I do is I walk you step by step in my small group coaching program and show you how to design your ideal client, attract cash paying clients using social media marketing, and be able to design a very basic offer and then progress that offer so that you can make the money that you deserve and help the clients that you want on your terms. Again, you don't need to do clinical. What you do need to do is learn how to market and sell, because the only bottleneck in this situation is you if you don't learn how to apply yourself and help consumers. I just want to say again, there are millions of consumers searching for results. And if you don't come up and pop up on social media and they don't see you as being the answer to their biggest problem, then you're doing everybody a disservice. So that being said, let me know what you think about the 2-year clinical death sentence below, and we'll have a conversation. Use my hashtag clinical stories for a chance to be featured on my Instagram so that I can continue to share this message with dietitians all around the world and inspire them to escape clinical.